Good evening, gentle listener, and welcome to the Unfiltered Mind, where hosts Graham and Hayden explore fascinating and thought-provoking topics, sparking curiosity and thoughtful discussion among listeners. Through these open-minded discussions, the Unfiltered Mind seeks to inspire a deeper understanding of the world and reason as a whole, while fostering civility and connection in an age of division.
Hello, and welcome to this special edition of the Unfiltered Mind. So, today is a Thanksgiving special, and we're going to be talking about the importance of Thanksgiving and gratitude in the modern life, and really just a little reflection on what Thanksgiving is, and the importance of taking a day for giving thanks in such a busy world that keeps us normally preoccupied with all the things that we are not that grateful for. So, I'd love to start out with mentioning how, especially, I think it was a Harvard article that I had found uses or cites a number of studies that talk about the fact that gratitude reduces the effects of anxiety and depression, two of the most common mental health issues in America today. And so that alone is pretty significant, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting statistic that they would reduce those two mental health issues. And I'm curious to ask you, why do you think that would be?
Well, I think a lot of anxiety is kind of anxiety-centered. So you have people generally on edge because all these things are coming up, and it's the uncertain, it's the unpredictable, it's all this stuff. So when you take a second and you calm down, it's like, okay, I'm good. I know these things. These are kind of happy thoughts, There's no anxiety in that. There's no something to be nervous about because you're just giving thanks for the things you have right now, And sure, it can devolve into, I'm scared of losing these things or whatever, but at the end of the day, you're still grateful for those things. And if it does devolve like that, you're no longer being grateful, it's just worrying.
Yeah.
So, and then depression, I think, is kind of the loss of hope in life. And so, that is one of the things for depression that many people find the most useful is taking a second and thinking, okay, what makes life good,
Mm-hmm. So in short, you would say that anxiety is sort of the focus on the bad things, and gratitude is the focus on things that are actually good, and depression is sort of driven by anxiety, so the over-focus on things that are bad can lead to depression and loss of hope. And then oftentimes to counteract the depression, you could say gratitude is focusing on things that have been good in the past and then having hope of things that are good in the future.
Yeah, kind of. It's really special to take a second for everyone, really, and just thank God for everything that we have. I am so thankful that I have family in North Carolina that was hit by the hurricane, and I'm just so glad. I'm so thankful that everyone I know is okay. There's no casualties that I knew personally, and I'm really sad about all of the destruction that did happen with Helene, but I'm very, very grateful that it didn't touch me personally, and everybody was prepared, and things went about as well as they could have. So it's just nice to take a second and be like, God was watching out for that. He cares. and reminding yourselves of these kind of fundamental truths of the faith, where it's like, yeah, you just take a second and it's like, God is still good.
Yeah, and focusing on the good of the good things that God has done in the past gives you sort of a promise and a hope for the good things of the future, and more of a positive outlook on life in general, and even more things to give thanks for that will happen in the future.
Absolutely. I think that it's nice to maintain that perspective. A lot of these articles have mentioned practicing gratitude on a daily basis, just to maintain that perspective of, God's in control, and He's still good, and He still cares, and that life is still good. Life is still worth living. The suicide crisis that America is facing is horrible, and I think it's led... Sorry, that's not the correct term. I think it's caused mostly by this consumeristic culture that, like you said, focuses on efficiency and productivity, and it's easy to get caught up in that and to ignore everything around you. So I think taking a couple minutes per day just to be like, yeah, let's recenter, let's focus back on the things that matter and just give thanks to God.
And that focus, the daily focus on giving thanks and gratitude, is something that you will have to, that doesn't come naturally to us, as the world around us is always focusing on the negative things. You can see that just by looking at any news headline. When is the last news headline that was focused on something positive or giving thanks for something that was happening in the world, rather than like, oh no, disaster, the world is going to end, look at all these terrible things that are happening, there's no hope left in the world.
And all the fear. Yeah. There's so much fear.
Because they know that they can sell fear.
Yeah.
Whereas that maybe can't sell gratitude.
Yeah. I think that it is harder to sell gratitude because it's different for every person. You think about, for example, a lot of people could be grateful for family. Well, this orphan can't be thankful for that. And a lot of people are thankful for a warm house. Well, some people can't be grateful for that. And so, it's just harder because it's the now. It's in people's lives already, versus fear, which is the future. And everyone has the future. And no one knows what it holds. I could get struck by a meteor tomorrow, and this could be my last day, and I'd never know it. Or a massive flood comes along and wipes away everything I have tomorrow. And it could change my life. But as for right now, just staying in the now is the best way to practice gratitude, I would say.
Yeah, gratitude is rooted in the past and the present. It's defined by past experiences that have led up to the present circumstances that are there to be thankful for, and you can be thankful for things that are in the past. But things that are happening in the future, you can't necessarily be thankful for yet, but they can give a hope of good things to happen. But the gratitude you have for things in the past can give a hope for things that will happen in the future. And fear truly is rooted in what could happen in the future, and the idea that bad things could potentially be on the way, instead of having a positive outlook on the future.
Yeah. I think that it's really interesting to look back to the whole reason that we have Thanksgiving. The Pilgrims' first Thanksgiving, it's like these people had come from overseas on a trip that killed most of them. Then the harsh winter killed most of the rest of them. And so, these people had lost family, lost children, lost, parents, and it was heartbreaking because people were dying left and right, and there was no promise of any future. For all they know, this is some God-forsaken wasteland that because, I mean, they're up north. Nothing can be farmed up north. It's just hard as a rock. And so, without the Indian people to come help them grow crops, there was no food, And so something as basic as food changed the whole perspective. Mm-hmm. And I think that it's so easy to count our misfortunes today that are relatively small compared to the grand things that we have. Because odds are, if you're alive, it means you have food, water, and shelter, or at least have this far, or have had it this far. So I think that that's a useful perspective to just kind of come into this with and be like, And I know it's like kind of stupid to, because someone always has it worse off than you, but it's just, it's good to restore that perspective. I can speak, jeez. But yeah, and I think also it's wonderful that we've set aside a day for this, like a whole day, like made a holiday out of it, because it's one thing to be grateful for things that you kind of cognitively know, like, oh yeah, Aunt Susie that I saw 3 years back. But it's different when you can see people face to face.
Yeah, I think something that we should really focus on over Thanksgiving is just making sure that we don't take the day that we sort of set aside as a holiday to give thanks for granted, and sort of actually just make sure that we spend time giving thanks for the things that we actually do have and have been given, and not focusing on necessarily negative things as much.
Yeah, it's really easy to make Thanksgiving kind of the cause of a lot of anxiety, honestly, because you're talking about your plans and you have to go. For example, we're driving down to drive my grandparents to a family reunion. Okay, well, now we have to plan about, okay, well, when are we leaving and when are we coming back, and the whole upset about planning a trip. And it's just like, okay, well, got to get there on time, and we got to do everything right. We got to make the food, and we got to make sure that it doesn't die or whatever. And so I think it's easy to consumerize it and make it just about the nitty-gritty of it, if you will, versus the blessings that we're partaking in. The fact that we have this food to make, and the fact that we have this family to share it with. It's also a wonderful time to catch up with people who, I know at least for me, might not have that long. And I think that if we're not careful, that can lead to a lot of anxiety, that can lead to a lot of fear. And it's nice to be able to sit back and be like, but I have it today. Just right this second. And ignore the future for just a day, just one day. There you go.
Yeah. And like you said, Thanksgiving, just in general, and a lot of holidays, especially involving people that are not your super close family, it can cause a lot of stress and anxiety and things that you don't really want to have to be dealing with. And yeah, I think just taking a step back from all that and just being like, I'm not really going to let this be stressful for me, but I'm going to instead be grateful for these things that have been given to me, even if the family can drive me crazy sometimes. I'm so thankful that they're here. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. It's an interesting fact that, even meal times in the American household have just become almost obsolete. Now with this kind of rising stress on everybody, well, nobody has time to sit down at the same time and eat dinner. Dad has a meeting, mom's still taking care of the baby or whatever, and so well, the oldest grabs dinner when they can, and the youngest comes a little bit after that because the oldest has to make dinner for them, and then, well, mom eventually gets time to make dinner for her and the baby, and then dad just kind of grabs leftovers when he comes home at like 10 o'clock at night. It's like, oh, well, you can go days in your own house without seeing your family. It's just like, it's heartbreaking for me, because those people are the type of people that we should care about the most. And yet, we really don't specialize it or prioritize it. That's the better word for that. So, what would you comment about that?
Yeah, I do think it is sort of a overall bad thing that us as a society have sort of stepped away from traditional family values, per se. And one of those is the idea that you would actually sit down and eat dinner or just a meal together, and sort of even just spend time together as a family throughout the day, because we have this never-ending cycle of like rushing and hurry and gotta do this and gotta do that, and then family actually gets put to the side rather than other less important things typically. And I think that's something that maybe society could do better at in general, and even people that could be close to you maybe, or even yourself, maybe spend more time prioritizing family instead of always being rushing and hurrying and on the move.
Yeah, it's kind of sad, the amount of regret that is in the American culture, because people are too busy to count what they have when they have it, and only realize what they had when it's gone. And I think it's important to make note of the days that we do have. Not to sound ecclesiastical or anything, but it's a good point. We don't have forever. And these people that mean so much to us, let's take a day, or every day, to treat them like it, But, I think that's probably about going to do it for this short, small episode. Anything you would like to further add?
Nope, this is definitely something to think about. Thank you, everybody, for listening and tuning into our special Thanksgiving episode, and hope to see you in the next one.
Absolutely. If there's anything that you would like to further see in these podcasts, go ahead and put it in the comments. We would love to get back to you about that, or put it in a future episode. And yeah, just take a day to be grateful and praise the Lord for all He has done. Have a great day.